Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Supergirl as well as the season finale of iZombie. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Supergirl, you can skip to what I say about the season finale of iZombie. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Supergirl. A great episode. That whole situation, obviously, Mon-El and Kara getting the rock they need, did not expect it to turn out the way it did. I kind of got spoiled about the whole situation, but still, like, it turns out that on top of that is a city. Turns out that city is actually a Krypton city, which, lo and behold, Kara's mom is on it. The entire episode, I'm like, we're going to get revealed that it's actually not really Krypton. This got to be some, like, weird disguise. It's like, no, I didn't expect that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's almost like borderlining some like Doctor Who stuff, just because the whole Gallifrey situation is kind of a complicated thing. But nevertheless, it's just kind of interesting to me. It's like, wow, so not all of Krypton survived, but at least one city did, which, I mean, that says a lot. I mean, which also at the same time is like, well, an entire planet is going one city. I mean, it's better than nothing, but still, it's kind of interesting. Sadly, the rock that they use is, it's what kind of keeps them alive, and any piece that they give away just means less people, gives them less time. I mean, to be fair, I mean, this also means that this brings an opportunity. I would assume that they would be able to come to Earth. I mean, that didn't really get suggested this episode. I mean, you are migrating an entire city onto a planet, but I mean, hell, who knows? Maybe eventually that's where this could potentially go. But it's so interesting. The fact that the entire city is alive. I also thought it was kind of interesting. The kid that Mon-El ended up helping cure, his name was Val. I'm pretty sure his name was Val, which is interesting, just because that's like Superman and Kara's great grandfather. His name is Val. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I know it definitely means nothing. I just thought it was kind of interesting. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. I thought she said Val, but maybe she didn't. Nevertheless, that was kind of pretty neat. I was almost expecting that to turn into something like, oh yeah, it reveals some like terrible secret about Argo, like when he's trying to cure the kid of the illnesses that some people still have. It's like, oh no, not the case. So I don't maybe it's just kind of like, oh man, here's a cool thing. These people are in need, because like when he saw that boy at first, it was, I guess, because Mon-El latched onto it, and I guess it's because Mon-El comes from a time period where it's like, for one, it's just, it's a little kid that's sick and he wants to do whatever he can, but also coming from a future where the blight was a whole situation. It's kind of like, okay, so I guess that makes him even more sympathetic to their situation. So what really got me was it Selena, one of the council members? It's the same lady that's been telling Rain what to do, which is so interesting, because I think in my mind, and maybe it still is, I thought that whole situation was just a hologram, kind of like the whole Jor-El situation in the Fortress of Solitude. It's just some computer program. Like, I thought that's what that was, so it's kind of automated. But it seems like this might be implying that she actually has been communicating this entire time, because even at the end of the episode, it seems like she's trying to reach out to Rain. Because at first I was like, okay, so what we're going to do is, she was working on this project before Krypton exploded, but she probably thought the project was dead. Maybe she didn't know that the 3 world killers escaped. Maybe she did. I don't know. Maybe she didn't know they ended up on Earth, didn't know whatever happened to them, but now she does. It's kind of interesting because it has been a good chunk of time. I wonder, has time completely stopped for them, in space and everything under their bubble? Has time worked different? And her mom doesn't look older, but maybe that's kind of the whole point, which is kind of like, oh yeah, just put her in that age range where it's like, oh, maybe because it's been a good chunk of time. Because of the whole time situation, let's not forget, she moved, there's the whole Clark situation. Because by the time Kara got there going through the Phantom Zone, he was already grown up. So there's that time frame. And there's, on top of that, there's also the fact is that her growing up too, you add on another decade or so to that. So it kind of begs that question. But then again, it's like the whole thing about Kryptonians kind of age differently. I thought that was kind of wasn't that supposed to be all because oh yeah, the yellow sun and stuff like that. Nevertheless, I don't know. So it seems like she has been in contact, which begs the question, because apparently with that shield, you're not supposed to be able to get any signals out, but she has been. So, which is so interesting because she gave them the rock. So has she not been in the know? Has it just been an automated program and now she's trying to get in touch, or has she been in touch the entire time? Then why would you make that decision that you would do that? You're in a position to make so it doesn't happen. So either because they think she knows or believes that a rock won't do anything, Because I mean, it begs the question. Because like, obviously, it's meant to overwrite all of Reign's DNA with Sam's, but who's to say it doesn't kind of act in reverse? I mean, it'd be kind of interesting, like if, like I brought it up before, like the whole Doomsday situation, like if he wasn't Smallville, maybe they kind of do a split, which could end up causing more problems because I mean, her humanity is not really holding her back anyway, but it probably, even more so with Sam out of her, the Beast would be completely unleashed. But I guess the argument could be made as the Beast is already kind of fully unleashed in this particular situation anyway, so. It was just kind of interesting to me. Like, it's understandable why they would be hesitant because it's like, well, this is about their future. It's kind of interesting because literally the same thing is happened in Krypton. It's kind of like our future versus the rest of the universe. Like, the decisions we make here will affect not just us, but everyone else. And that same thing applies here because it's like, especially in Kara's mom's case, because for her, it's like, she looks back on all the mistakes they made on Krypton. Her and the whole Fort Ross situation, locking up Astra. Yeah, she didn't like the way Astra handled things, but it's like, still, also, it's kind of sucky learning about Astra's situation. I do like that they do that. Like, they reference stuff from season 1. They don't, like, always pull from it, but they do reference it here and there. They acknowledge it. It's not like it's, like, non-canonical. It's just not something they speak about a lot. But nevertheless, but for her, she was even apologizing to Kara because it's like, oh, I gave up hope. I'm supposed to I'm always telling you I always told you about keeping up hope and I lost mine. It's like, I mean, which is just understandable. Like both of them thought they lost everything and just kind of like, wow. Like, I mean, and after all this time, they finally found each other, which I'm just still worried that we're going to find the twist where it's like, nope, these are aliens that, I mean, with the circumstance, it doesn't seem like that's a case, but it just, like I said, it just seems so surreal. It's like, oh my God, you got your mom back in your life. It's just kind of like, I'm just waiting for like the ball to get dropped that something's going to go wrong in that situation. In what case, I don't know. I mean, hell, for all we know, this at Argo City might be used as a weapon to crash into Earth. It's like, oh yeah, like if we can't purify Earth through rain, we can purify it by other means by crashing into Earth and destroying it. We might even have the people from Argo being like, you know what? We're going to keep up. We're going to do what the original, the Kryptonians from Fort Ross were going to do. We're basically going to take over this planet. So there's that whole situation. So I don't know. Because it's so interesting to me because it's like her mom has popped up multiple times during the season. At the very least, Erica Durant has because, there was one time where she popped up when in actuality it was just John disguised as her in the past. But she hasn't popped up a lot. She popped up like early season, a little here and there, but it's like she has not been that prevalent in the season. So I think that's kind of neat. Maybe there's particular reasons why. I don't know. Like at the time, I don't know if she's working on other projects or the reason why she's not in the season a lot, or maybe that's just the setup for her to be in the show a lot more currently in the future. I don't know. Just kind of a thought process I'm thinking about. It's kind of interesting because a lot of people are getting moms back into their lives and stuff like that. I mean, not a chance for Mon-El, but still, Wynn's going through that situation, and now Kara's going through that. The mom situation with Ruby and Sam, I meant to say Sam first, but, Sam's situation. So it's just kind of like, that seems like an overarching theme this season. It's kind of like moms, the complications behind it, like each with their own extenuating circumstances. So it is nice that they have found their way to each other, and it's got to, because a big part of Kara's fear was like, well, the fact of the matter is like, I had this life on Earth and stuff like that, sure, but I have to wear a disguise, and interesting enough, even Mon-El brings it up, it's like, yeah, in the future, we don't even have disguise, like all Legionnaires are just out in the open, so, which for Kara, in this day and age, I guess it's not, the superhero game isn't big enough, which is kind of funny considering the DC universe, it's filled with freaking superheroes, some that some you don't know at all, super obscure. You get my point, and it's just kind of interesting. It's just so weird to think about the fact that isn't a thing at all, like secret identities in the future. It's something I've kind of talked about in the past, but nevertheless. But to me, that seems like they're potentially setting this up so Kara might be more inclined to go back to Argo City because it gets her more, keeps her more in line with her roots, her people. Even though she loves Earth is her home, like these are still her people, like the closest, like she thought it was all lost, and now it's there potentially for her there, her mom's there, it's just going to be a very interesting situation. Looks like Mon-El won't be the only one making a big choice, I think, going forward, whether him staying with Kara, will he go back to Imra and stay in the future, like, what ends up happening. But I did like the whole conversation of Kara's mom being like, this is our mistakes. Like, everything that happened to us is because like what's happening to Earth. For one, it's like, well, who's to say that situation on Earth just stays on Earth? Eventually, we might get dragged into it as well, and we might be dooming other planets and other worlds in the same situation. But it's also like, we're the reason why this came about. Rain, the world killers are Kryptonian based. The Fort Ross situation, that was causing problems on Earth. Another situation out. So we basically caused this problem. Is it really right for us to just look away? But it's like, yeah, but that's not, we shouldn't be concerned about other people. It's like, we should be concerned about ours. And then like Kara's mom is like, well, then what's the whole point of keeping, like, trying to, make up for the past if we're just going to ignore it? We're supposed to learn from the past, and have we learned nothing from everything? So, I mean, it was kind of interesting because it was kind of split down the middle of like those against helping Kara and Earth and others for it. So, like I said, I'm interested to see if that turns out to be anything or not, but I feel like it must not do anything. Like, if she was willing to let them have it, like she has to have some ulterior motives. Maybe it will give her the signal she needs. Maybe it weakens the shield enough for her to bounce out a little signal or whatever. Or maybe that rock can act as like an antenna so she can get in contact with. Because she hasn't been in contact with Rain in a while. Last time we saw her was when Rain was trying to kill Ruby. So that was that. But along with all of that, we do have the other side of the episode where we have Lena in a tough spot. Lena has to decide what she's going to do about the Rain situation because the kryptonite isn't working and it's going to stop being effective. Then there's the whole wall situation that's not effective anymore either. So now it's like you have a choice. Do you try and wait so you can save Sam, or do you kill her now while you have the opportunity to by flooding her system with kryptonite, which I guess would work, but it's like, would that be enough? I mean, I guess because no one really tried because they never had large samples of kryptonite, but also they weren't ever trying to kill Rain. They were just trying to stop her because that's not the DEO or like Kara's way of doing things. It's also interesting because like the whole Astra situation got brought up, especially about her death. Yeah, I guess we're kind of skating over the fact is that it was Alex that killed her too, so that's kind of an awkward conversation. I'm sure you're not going to be too quick to kind of, especially when you kind of give your sister such big praise. Like, I mean, I don't know if that's something that you're just storyline while trying to skate over. I mean, obviously that's not something you want to bring up in the first conversation with your mom who you thought was dead situation, but nevertheless, it's just kind of something I literally flew in the back of my head. But Jimmy is saying that, like, okay, what would Sam want? And Sam would want Ruby to be protected. So the best way to protect Ruby and prevent her from being in danger is to kill Sam. But then again, it's like, well, then, like, well, what does, Ruby would want her mom to be around, and obviously her mom and Sam would want to be around for Ruby. But it's like, if I can't be there, I want her protected. So taking care of Rain would be the best option. But it's like, it leaves Lena very conflicted. But it's so interesting because Rain kind of sees through her, and I think you can tell it bothers Lena because it tugs at stuff already there. It's like, oh yeah, you and Supergirl, you need each other in this situation, but when it's all said and done, will you need each other? What then? It's like, me and Supergirl may not agree, but like, we want to stop you, so at least that's that. But I think that's still, like, she is saying like, oh, it's fine, I'm gonna end our relationship, like our friendship, we have no more going forward. But I think even then, it still bothers her because they had a good friendship, because Supergirl was willing, she was one of the few people that Supergirl, like, because even Jimmy, it's like Jimmy was very hostile towards Lena in the beginning. And it's like Supergirl is one of the few people who ever believed in her and gave her a chance. Like, even when her own mom put her in her position to make it so that everyone kind of distrusted her. Like, Kara's like Supergirl always believed in her. So I think that's a struggle. But also, like, the darkness in Lena, that's always her biggest concern. It's like, yeah, it's like, the fact of the matter is, like, everything that's kind of bubbling inside of you, Rain, is kind of like, that's exactly like me. That's why I can see you. Like, oh, the darkness that's in you, which is, Lena's always scared about that Luthor darkness, kind of spilling out in any other facet of her life. So obviously, like, that kind of tugs at her strings a little bit. So I think she was flirting with the idea because she started boosting the kryptonite up. But I don't know if in the long run she would have done it. I think she might have. I mean, everyone would have frowned upon it. She would have hated herself for it, but still, So another aspect to this episode was the fact is that Alex was kind of being targeted by someone, and then she starts thinking, oh, people from her past. Interesting enough, the sheriff from their hometown, Midvale, is Collins. apparently he got out of jail and Alex went to visit him, which apparently it seems like, nope, he's not an issue. I guess it just happened to be circumstance that he ended up in the same city, actually living near Alex. I feel like there could be more to it. I was actually expecting it to be, what's the dude named Kovar? The cult dude? I thought it was going to be him trying to, do something, like take Alex out of the picture, but it's like, no. In the long run, it ended up turning out to be, a dude that, like, Alex arrested, his twin, like someone from Fort Ross. But this dude's twin is the one targeting Alex, which she did that sweet move when she was hanging over the leg. She cartwheels forward and got like up and above him and kind of takes him down like that. I was like, that's some pretty sweet moves. But it is kind of interesting hearing the whole thing from Collins, where basically he's like, no, I'm not going to come after you because like I was an idiot. I was a terrible human being. I thought I was a good guy, but it turned out to be a murderer. It's like, going after you won't bring Kenny back. It won't save me. He's like, I'm damned. Like, I deserved everything I got. I don't deserve forgiveness. So that was kind of interesting. Whether that turns out to be anything more, I don't know, because they went out of the way kind of showing that he's in National City, but maybe that's just kind of for this particular storyline. I just feel like it could still lead to something later on, but not for now. I mean, who knows? Maybe Kara ends up finding out about him being in town, and maybe that turns into something too. I mean, hell, I can't remember. Does he? It's been a while because that was earlier in the season, but did he know about Kara's abilities and stuff like that? So he might be the one to put it together about the whole like, oh, she's Supergirl situation. Kara, I don't remember if he actually saw her using her abilities or not. I don't think he did. I think she took him by surprise and he got knocked out. Wasn't that the whole case? Nevertheless. But this whole situation put things in perspective for Alex. It's like, obviously she wanted to protect Ruby, but it's also like, it made her question everything. It's like, I living this life am willing to kind of put myself in very dangerous situations that normally could get me killed, and I wouldn't even second guess it because it's like, oh, that's part of the job. But now being like, oh, I'm in a situation where if something happens to me, there might not be anyone there for Ruby, especially if something happens to Sam. So that kind of gets her thinking about that, but also potentially for the future for herself, because she wants to be a mom. It's where she wants to be. She's a good agent and stuff like that, but being a good agent might be a problem in the future with whoever she's with, or potentially her child, because it's like she could end up potentially leaving her child without a mother. She could leave whoever she's potentially with in the future without explanation. Kind of basically the superhero struggle to a certain extent, kind of balancing that life between like, oh, having your normal life and then, kind of like going back to that, like kind of being in a similar situation as Kara has been this season, about like, oh, like balancing the Kara Danvers aspect with Supergirl. So it is kind of interesting that Alex, I mean, it kind of fits very nicely because now, like I said, this potentially sets up some life changes for both Alex and Kara. Kara potentially going to live in Agro City. Like, I mean, this might be a situation like, well, I'll come back and visit, but maybe she'll spend a lot more time there. Won't be coming back to Earth as much. I mean, she is one of its heroes, but, in the same time, it might be like, well, I might not need to be here. The DEO is here, plus Earth has my cousin, so maybe that might be her rationale behind it, especially where especially if things kind of sour between her and Lena, especially if Lena finds out the truth about her, that might be the final nail in a haystack that ends up pushing her. Maybe Sam dying in the end could potentially all be things that lead to her being like, I can't be on Earth anymore. Just, it's too painful. It's too hurtful, and she decides to leave everything behind. Maybe, I don't know. So John is willing to support. He's like, no matter what decision you make in the future, I know you'll make it, what's right for you. You're a fine agent and I know you'll be an amazing mom. So whatever choice you make, obviously he's got her back. So that is definitely going to be interesting to see, where Alex decides to go, because it does seem like she's leaning more towards that whole like, yeah, I'm probably going to leave this agent life behind, which is kind of crazy. It's such a big part of her character. So it's for such a long time, it's been a big part of who she is, because it gave her purpose. It kind of set her on her path. So it's kind of interesting. I also did appreciate that Ruby and Wynn were kind of bonding. Obviously, I think he just doesn't bond well with kids. Because he's like, oh, don't put me babysitting, but also because he's stressed out because of the circumstances with Rain, trying to make sure everything's okay with Supergirl and Monel. So there's that. So he was kind of a little jerky to her, but plus he wasn't getting a lot of sleep. But he understood exactly what she's going through, because it's like, she hasn't slept much because of these circumstances either, But Wynn talks to her, and he kind of brings up a conversation that she brought up. Was it last episode? The whole thing about like, oh, will she end up like her mom? Like the same thing of Wynn talks about his dad. It's like my dad actually tried to kill me, and for such a long time he was worried about that. Like, oh, that evil that made my dad the way he is that in me? Which Ruby was like, no, you're not evil. He's like, yeah, I know, I'm a bit jerkish, sure, but not evil. So we did see them kind of bonding. So that's pretty neat. Uncle Win stepping in like that, I thought was kind of neat. So I'm curious to see if they kind of do anything more with that in the future or not. So like I said, this set up some very interesting circumstances all around. The episode ends with them returning to Earth with the Rock. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this whole situation plays out. Because let's not forget, Ruby is also potentially still there too. So that could play a role. Cause I feel like Ruby's definitely going to be a key to this too, because she's going to be the one to be able to kind of get to Sam amongst anyone else, you know. Sam will probably be able to reach out because of Ruby. So, like, I don't know. I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us with all of this. So. And now moving on to the season finale of iZombie, a fantastic season finale. A lot of great things went down this episode. We're going to have to break everything down bit by bit. First of all, the show introduced Justin back in the show. I'm like, what? Where the hell have you been? We literally have not seen him since like season 3's finale. I was like, oh man, he's only going to pop up this one bit in the episode. But it's like, no, he kind of pops up throughout the episode. And I think it's important that he pops up. And I think we'll probably be seeing him a lot more going forward with the show, just because of the role he's kind of playing. But nevertheless, obviously, I guess under the circumstances, he wanted to come see Liv one last time, even though they have their relationship kind of ended the way it did. He still feels something for her, so he came to see her all. That was brutal when Liv was actually getting. I was like, are they actually going to do that? And it's like, yeah. What's his name? Lambert, who I just always just called him Jacques. I thought that was his name. It's like, no, Lambert put on her knuckles and was beating on her. And just to make things presentable, they put makeup on her just to present her to Clive, Ravi, and Peyton, which is it's like, because the thing is, in this episode, and I think this episode kind of continues it, it's like you see Chase doing whatever he can to keep control. Like, he's thinking that he's justified in everything he do, because basically, like I said, in his mind, he's trying to do the right thing, because it's like he's trying to rule everything with an iron fist, because he's trying to keep everything under control, because he thinks that this ruling this way is the only way you can like gain that symbiote, because what he's mainly focused on is keeping the humans safe while also keeping zombies in line and in check, essentially. So, but I love that, you know, Levon's video went viral, like her final messages to everyone, and she's like, yeah, I want you to know that this brain that I'm on loves you. And it's like saying that to Clive, and Robbie's like, no, you're not gonna die. Yeah, we're gonna find a way out of this. And her and Peyton having that moment of like, yeah, like we always want to make big names for ourselves. I guess we should have been more specific, you know? And it's just like their refusal to let, like, her friends, everyone came together, resistance, you know, people who were part of the whole underground with Renegade, as well as just people in town who believed in what Levon was showing. There were even people in Fillmore Graves, because using that dude that was kind of talking about, yeah, it's actually kind of a tearjerker. And Justin's like, how many, so he's like, am I the only one? Justin seems like the only one who hadn't seen it at a point in time, because it started going viral and stuff like that. Everyone around Seattle was starting to hear it. They were moving up her execution, because you even had the point where Chase was kind of like, you know what, I'm just gonna go, like, you know, if need be, we'll keep things the way they are, because it has to be a public execution so he can keep things in line. So, but you had Hobbs kind of pulling him back, which is kind of interesting. I'll kind of dive into that a little bit later on, but for him, it's like, okay, we just move it somewhere else and record it, then we kind of put it out there. Sadly, when it was all said and done, Levon died. I was like, that sucked. The moment he went up first, I was like, he's about to die, isn't it? And it's like, that sucks. And it's something Liv brings up too. Like, I mean, that's why this hits her so hard. Once again, it's like Liv can't catch a goddamn break when it comes to love. It's like, she brings it up. Lowell, Drake, and now Levon. For her, it's like everyone she gets close to dies, you know? The others try to get there, but they weren't able to get there in time. It's like powerful. The first person through was Major, and everyone had their guns pointed at him. He started running forward, but Justin's the one that told him to put their guns down. And he leaped over everyone, got Chase. I think it's symbolic that the person who ended up killing him was Liv, and with the same thing that he used to kill Mama Leone and Levon. It's kind of full circle. It's kind of sad that things ended the way they did, but I think like legitimately the show has at this very late parts of the season, there's no going back for Chase. Chase was very set in his ways. He wasn't going, it was something Mama Leone was kind of trying to get at, but whatever semblance of him that she kind of talked to before wasn't willing to listen. It's like you gotta look at things, you know, what was the word? Was it pragmatic? I don't think it was pragmatic, but basically she was kind of like, you have to kind of look at things kind of differently than what he was looking at it. Like, he felt bad about what he was doing, but I think subsequently since then, it's just kind of like he cut that, whatever semblance of him, the good guy that was there, that we've kind of got to at least slightly know over the course of season 3, now completely vanished in this season, you know? Because like I said, he was in a terrible situation, but it was a situation of like, if he worked with Liv, maybe they could have made a difference. I don't know. But it just did not end well for him. The Angus storyline took a complete turn I wasn't expecting at all. It's like, okay, get some zombies to rush the gate, we'll go through, and, you know, Blaine, it's, once again, I thought it's like, oh, Blaine's just using his dad. It's like, no, there's a part of him that legitimately start caring about his dad. Like I said, something he hadn't done in a long time. He always hated his dad. But even in other circumstances, it's like, I guess you could make the argument keeping his dad in that well was also because he just couldn't completely let go of his dad. So on some mess up level, he still loved his dad. And like I said, for the first time in forever, him and his dad had a good relationship until he told his dad the truth, because he legitimately didn't want his dad to go out there. It's like, no, we need to watch from afar. It's like, no, generals, we go into battle. And he's like, and Angus is like, no, we'll go in. Come on, son, full charge, ho. We'll go with our zombie brethren. But it's like, no, I made up all those signs. He's like, even wear this helmet. I love you, Dad. I mean, he didn't say I love you, but it's kind of implied. And it's like, it's so crazy. Because the last time we've ever seen Blaine care about someone that much was Peyton, which is weird. I guess you can make that argument. It's like Blaine lies to the people he cares about most, interestingly enough. But his dad was so disgusted by him. His dad kind of backtrotted a little bit, and it's like, oh, you disgust me. You thank God your mom's not around. She would have to see you for the coward that you are. It's like, wow. I was thinking maybe Blaine would kind of change his mind, but it's like Blaine kind of always kind of been the skeevy bastard that he is. It wasn't going to go through him. And sadly, Angus has died. Angus did die. That thing he was setting up, it seems like him and all of his, I would assume all of his followers are there. The sad thing is Landair was there, which is interesting. I mean, to be fair, like, we got cut away from when he died. So they could have just popped him in the body, because let's not forget Landair was there. So it could be a situation of he ended up like all the other zombies are dead just for show, but made sure that Angus would live. I mean, I doubt I don't know. Like I said, they made sure to show everyone else getting popped in the head, but they lifted up when it was his time. So it makes me think like, I mean, that might have just been for censoring purposes, but it seemed like they showed the other one. So it's like, why not Angus? That's why I'm like, that's a little suspicious. So there might be more to that. Like, because like I said, he was there, and I guess not less he was kind of like, oh, this ended up being a hopeless cause. So not less Landair was just kind of stringing him along. I don't know, it's just kind of interesting to think about. We didn't really, I don't know. Maybe that's going to be like a twist plot point later on down the line or something, that he's actually still alive, which is going to be interesting. Because his little zombie revolution didn't have the impact like Liv's did. It ended up affecting everyone, human and zombie alike. People rose up, so many people were going to march to where the public execution, and then when the warehouse, less showed up, but obviously a still crap ton of people worked together to try and get to Liv and Dime. That was going to be some crazy stuff. I even love that Major is now in control. I figured that's where things are going to end for Major. I just wasn't expecting things to kind of play out with Chase in this. Like I said, I wasn't halfway expecting Chase to die. I thought maybe we lock him up or something like that. But I knew I had a feeling Major would kind of take over the operation and stuff like that. Obviously, he didn't want it, but it's kind of yeah, you don't really have any choice. All the soldiers respect you anyway. Besides, also doing the badass move he did just then, trying to save Liv, kind of cemented it more in their minds. The fact is that Chase was still trying to go on with the execution. It kind of left a sour mouth taste in everybody's mouth, no one wanted it. Because the fact of the matter is, it's also that's one of our brethren. You talk about zombies and stuff like that, yet you were almost effortlessly, killing our brethren, killing Levon. So it is kind of interesting. So I'm interested to see where that kind of takes us. Going forward with all of that. It's sad because it seems like we are kind of back to that situation where it's Major and Liv aren't in a good place, because she also blames him. It's Levon wouldn't be dead if you hadn't kidnapped me, because that gave Levon the time he needed to kind of put himself in this situation. And it's like, so she's always going to harbor some hate towards him because of that. But at the same time, she realizes it's like, no, it's because he does care about me. She's like, I've always known what kind of person he is, even when he forgets. Like, even though they've been on opposite sides, she always knows that Major is a good guy, always trying to do the right thing. And that's legitimate why he went to Fillmore Grace, because he thought it was like the best way to handle this situation. But now he realized like Chase was the wrong way. So now, you know, like, a big part about Major is his heart, because he is empathetic and care, and he is taking different steps going forward. There's no more problems of smuggling humans in. If people want to come to Seattle to get turned into zombies, it's like, then it's all like, they'll no longer have any issues from Fillmore Grace. They still have the U.S. Army to deal with, but that's kind of a situation all on its own. So, I mean, this sets up some very interesting things going forward. Obviously, the whole, okay, Clive and Dale situation. I did not, it's like, oh, they're getting married and stuff like that. And the moment, like, Liv is willing to take the cure, which I wasn't expecting that either. I was like, oh, wow, she's gonna, yeah, because for her, she was like done with everything, because it's like, for her, it's like she lost her mission, like her purpose. Like, it's just countless loss for her. It's like, I cause nothing but pain to all the people I get close to. It's like, I could, you know, get all of you killed and hurt, and, you know, that's what she's most worried about. And it's like, she's like, if I'm no longer a zombie, it's no longer an issue. She's like, I'm retired from being renegade and stuff like that. She had just given up hope. And which is interesting, because like Liv, no matter all through everything that she's been through over the course of this series, she's always kind of been the most hopeful. She's always pushed forward. She's persevered, you know? And it's kind of crazy to have seen her that down. Once again, it's understandable. It's just like loss after loss. It's always just kind of like, when Liv does the right thing, it just costs her in the end. And it's just like that toll can weigh on anybody. But I was like, wow, are we about to have Liv become, I mean, it is a cure, but the question is it a permanent cure, like the whole Isabel brain? And interesting enough, it seems like eating Isabel's brain would also mean never, is it like purely like the vaccine that Ravi was making, so it'd make you immune to it? Or, you know, would it be like the situation in the past, like you get cured, but you could, like, you know, Blaine or, major situation, like you just get zombied again later on. I don't know. Because you know what the sad part about that is, though? Because of that cure aspect, you can never, even if the situation came about, she could never eat Isabel's brain like the one she wanted to. But in the end, she wanted to know that her brain mattered, and it did, because Liv decided to give it to Dale. It's like they were going to change Clive. She was going to change Clive into a zombie because he wants to be with her no matter what the circumstances are, because he loves her. Even if it means he can never have children, so what? But you know, Liv gave up her chance to be, because it's like after what she lost, she saw what they had, and she thought like the best thing I can do is give them happiness, because like this is one of my good friends, my partner, and the woman he loves, and how can I, like, you know, it's like how can I be so stuck in my own situation and like try and get my, you know, because she'd be turning human just to get away from her own sadness. Why can't I do that? Use Isabel's brain to do some good. Like I said, it seems like it would be all of her brain that needs to be digested for the cure. Because obviously they're rats, so they're smaller, so their digestive system. But for a human, they probably need to consume the whole brain, which is what I'm trying to get to. The sad thing is, Isabel could never live on through somebody. Because that was the whole point. She's like, she wanted Liv to eat her brain. So it's like, you can keep my memories and stuff like that. But eating the brain would mean that she'd get cured. So I mean, I wonder if you took a small enough dose of it, like if you kept a piece. I mean, it seemed like there was a good chunk of her brain, because that was a question too. Like, could it be mass produced? It's like, no, like Isabel's brain seems to be like 1 in a billion. So, I mean, maybe there'll be more out there, like I say, because maybe that's something we'll learn about going forward, because there's no like set circumstances on how to like what led to her brain ending up in the situation that it did. So, but Liv making that choice is the Liv that we know, always trying to do the right thing. It is something I brought up before, where it's like, oh, do we ever really know the real Liv? And it's something now with this, I talked about it then, but I pushed it even more now. Like, we do know the Liv. Liv always tries to do the right thing. She tries to do what she believes in. She's a good person at heart. Like, yeah, we know her mostly through other people's brains, but that doesn't change the core fact of what she does and why she does it. It's because she wants to help out people. She wants to do the right thing. You can make the argument it's all to fill some hole in her own heart, you know, living kind of vicariously through others by helping others. Maybe she's finding her own identity through it. You can make that argument, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, that's very pessimistic. So let's just look at the fact that she's a very hopeful person who wants to kind of spread that amongst other people. So, Obviously, we do have. I did like the whole situation. I was bringing this up earlier. It's a whole Hobbs situation because even Major brings it up. He's like, "Yeah, Hobbs came to me about this whole Chase situation, and then he kind of sold me out later on." So it's like, "Yeah, what do we do about that?" Even Justin's like, "Yeah, maybe we should kind of put him on freeze. Maybe, I don't know." That's definitely going to be interesting because it seemed like he might be potentially trying to aim for that job after you. It seemed like he was kind of setting himself up in that position because he was the one calming Chase down. I guess he was like one of the few people Chase could trust. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting going forward with the whole Fillmore Graves being the way they are, especially with the whole Lambert situation, because it's like, where's his story going to fall going forward? But also because they're going to be working with Donnie and Blaine. And he's like, let's face it, you guys, you're murdering scumbags, thieves, you're just terrible people. But you can smuggle brains in for us, and then lo and behold, oh my God, everyone will herald you as patriots. Because even Hobbs was like, yo, should we really do that? And it's like, nope, Major made the decision without really consulting him or whatever. Which, like I said, that's probably going to turn into something more later on or not. But for now, that's very interesting. Because the fact of the matter is, it's like, oh, you'll be very wealthy. Especially because Blaine needs the money now because everything he had planned blew up in his face. Now he owns all those properties and he's going to need a lot of money to pay for that. Plus, it could potentially put him out of business with the scratching post. It's like, there's so much riding on all of this. But it's like, oh, just when one door closes, another opens, which is definitely going to be interesting going forward because that means we might be seeing Blaine and Donnie in a more protagonist light in a sense, rather than just be scheming and kind of being terrible people. It's like, oh, you're going to be doing something for the greater good of Seattle. So that's good. That's interesting. So, like I said, it also depends on whether or not Blaine's dad is actually dead, because it's definitely going to be interesting if he's not, especially knowing that Blaine set everything in motion. It's like, oh, you got so many of my people killed, so he might come back for revenge. I don't know. I kind of get the feeling Blaine's not going to have a happy ending when this story is all said and done. Somebody's going to take him down. I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting because now it's still a struggle in Citywide, because obviously there's going to be people who are not all for this human/zombie cooperation, but now it seems like it's going to go beyond that. It's going to be all about like reaching out to everyone else, the government, stuff like that, which is interesting. Like when Peyton came back, the first thing Robbie did was kiss her, and then it's like, oh yeah, they had sex, and it's just kind of like, you literally could have told me about the whole Liv situation. It's like, well, I mean, I was so happy to see you. You missed me, I missed you. I didn't know if I'd see you again. And you have Jordan Gladwell being like, man, you were like, you're an animal, Robbie, and it's just kind of like, I guess he got so caught up in the moment he forgot, like, right, she's also in here too, even though I talked to her beforehand, but it just got caught up in the moment and everything. That was something I was wondering about. Would Peyton come back? But it turns out she would. Of course she would, because obviously Robbie was like, oh no, because I was thinking, like, when he opened the door, I was like, oh, it's going to be her, like, you're leaving her this message about how much you love her. I also love that. And she's like, Robbie, I love you. He's like, I know. She's like, you know. He's like, you know, I'm just playing. He's like, I'm just kidding. She's like, He's like, no, I love you. I love you. Mucho love you. Like, obviously, you know, I do. I was trying to play it cool. She's like, it worked. I mean, the fact is the groveling is a lot more charming. I'm really into that. He's like, oh, I'll grovel forever. And then just Major and Clive are looking at him like, nice, dude. That's super smooth. So, like I said, overall, a fantastic season finale. As you know, I've kind of brought this up last week, but, last week. iZombie has already been known to be renewed for a 5th season, and I mentioned this last week as well, but this 5th season shall be its last, which leaves you kind of a little sad, but at the same time, it's like, I always want a show going out and it ended up being like, nope, going into this knowing it's your final season. And with a lot of things kind of being set up, you can kind of see this kind of being the end all be all anyway. So I'm so excited to see what they do with the final season, like with this going forward. Like, obviously Seattle was kind of the start, but with the zombieism thing spread, let's not forget Blaine also has secures. That's something that hasn't popped back into the story, because other than the betting prices and stuff like that, has he sold off any of the other cures subsequently since then? I mean, because, well, he did build up a whole bunch of capital so that he could buy up all those properties. Was that just from that one cure? That's another reason why I feel like that whole Blaine situation is not going to work out that way. Also, I'm wondering, are we going to get a new mayor? I mean, Peyton is acting mayor right now, but is that going to stick? I mean, it's going to be interesting because this group is in 3 different powerful positions. You have Liv being renegade, Peyton being active mayor, and Major in control of Fillmore Graves. So it's just kind of interesting. The 3 heads of Seattle, essentially, right? The powerhouses of Seattle right there. So, which is definitely going to be interesting going forward with Liv working cases, because it's going to be like, I mean, I'm curious. I mean, I'm sure cases are still going to be the same way. I mean, even under these circumstances, murder still happened over the course of this season. But it's like her being in her position now, she's kind of like, they kind of said herself like a folk hero now. So it's definitely going to be interesting seeing how that all progresses forward. But I'm so interested to see what they'll do exactly in the final season. Will we see someone like Liv finally being cured when it's all said and done because of those potential cures? Like I said, maybe the money Blaine got to buy up all those properties is because he already did sell all those cures. Maybe there's still some left. Maybe he did only one that was used was the one that he used on the deputy mayor. Well, he did test it out before. There was that other dude, he turned into a human and then ate his brain, so it's kind of like, no. All right, there's also, let's not forget about Mr. Boss's money, because that was a storyline element too. Let's not forget Peyton was the one that stole that, so that might get ugly, which might put Blaine. It's going to be interesting because Blaine's supposed to be kind of a good guy, but maybe he'll kind of work more with Mr. Boss because Mr. Boss has the resources. It's like, yo, you do this, like I give you a good cut of this, so maybe they're already kind of business partners, so maybe they become even more so next season. But that might get complicated with the whole Peyton situation. We might see a more selfless Blaine potentially, maybe, I don't know. Because like I said, I doubt Mr. Boss is going to be all that happy about like, oh, I don't care what she used my money for. She took my money and she used it, so I don't appreciate that. So could be something else we see kind of stir up. Like I said, it's going to be so exciting to see what they do with the final season. Also really quickly, what about Robbie's situation? Is there any his whole situation, it is what it is, but is that something he has to really worry about getting cured about? Will that ever mutate into something more potentially? I don't know. It's kind of interesting that they did take Robbie's character into what he did this season, like being a whole almost werewolf. It makes me wonder, is that supposed to be a reference? Because there's the whole supernatural things that popped up in the comic books. Like Were Terrier is not Were Terrier. What is it? There's this Were something. There's some monster that one of the Gwendolyn, that's the main protagonist in the comic book. She has a friend who's something. He's some supernatural creature. I don't remember what it was. It was something Were something. It's not a werewolf exactly, but it's kind of like that. So I wonder, is that supposed to be a reference to that? Because he's changing once a month. Nevertheless, it's just kind of something that's kind of rolling in the back of my head. Nevertheless, that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good